All right, well, we can go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our second webinar covering Comeet's best practices and reporting. We are having a webinar series going on right now, so it's great to see, new names or new faces in this webinar and same ones that we saw last week. So super excited to see you back, and hopefully we see you next week as well. If we've never met before, my name is Beth. I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Orly. We are both from the customer success team, and our job is ultimately to make sure that you're utilizing Comeet to the best of its abilities, using the features to the fullest and making sure our partnership is successful. So in the upcoming weeks, we are going to be focusing on critical parts of the system that affect reporting. We want to make sure that we're improving your data and then displaying it properly in all of our various reports. So I'm going to go ahead actually and turn off my video so my face isn't in this whole entire recording, and then we'll get started with the presentation. Sorry, skipped ahead on my slide here. Okay, great. So last week we talked about how in the past year, Comeet really made a lot of effort in developing new features dedicated to improving your reporting. So from the start, one of Comeet's biggest advantages has always been flexibility. So I'm sure you've heard us talk about flexibility a lot. And this is really important when it comes to dynamic fields like ours. We want to give you the flexibility to create workflows that represent your actual process. There is one downside of flexibility though, and that's what the downside is, that it makes it harder to gain meaningful insights from your reports. Sorry, I'm obviously not very good at utilizing changing slides in a deck. So in the last webinar, we largely focused on openings, and we showed you how to properly use and document openings when you're creating positions and in the future. The openings, again, are going to help you accurately track your KPIs, such as time to hire and apply to hire. In addition to openings, we also talked about why it's really important to correctly set up your hiring team and your workflow to accurately reflect the recruiting efforts of each member on your team. Today, we are going to focus on tools and features that will enable Comeet to adapt to your processes and organizational structure, accurately document your work, and allow you to slice and dice a lot of your data using various filters in the reports. So our webinar today will be about a half an hour long, and we'll leave time at the end to ask questions. So we really encourage you to stick around with us so we can answer your questions at the end of this and just have a casual chat about what's going on with Comeet and some of the new features that we're going to be talking about. If you can't stay to the end, in which we totally understand that as well, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar over email probably tomorrow. Before we dive right into our quote unquote training here, I'm going to pass you over to Orly. She's going to discuss today's agenda and present a few of our new features that were recently released.
Hi everyone. I'd like to go over today's agenda first of all. So first of all, new and noteworthy. Like we said last week, in each of our webinars, we'll be talking about a couple of new features, not necessarily related to our topic about reporting and best practices, just a couple of new things that we think that you should know about. And we're going to talk about step templates, which is our major topic for today. It's a brand new feature that we've been waiting for a long time, and it's finally here. We're very excited about it. It allows the system owner or admin to create a closed list of step names on a company level. We'll talk about the position fields, which you can add to the description tab and give you a lot of customization options. They're very versatile. And disposition reasons. These are super important for your reports, and they can be managed in the settings as well. And then at the end, like Beth said, we're going to have a Q&A. Definitely feel free to keep sending over your questions as we talk, and at the end of the session, we'll be able to go over them together. So first of all, we discussed this in our last webinar as well. We keep you updated via email about an in-app messages about so sometimes you might be busy and you might miss those. So on the right side of the page, we have the question section, which has all of the information about everything new that we have come out. You can access it by clicking on the little question mark symbol on the top right-hand corner of your Comeet. It's definitely recommended to go in there every once in a while and check things out. The first feature we're going to talk about today, which is one of the smaller ones, but it's definitely something that was requested by a lot of customers, and that's a reminder. It works very similarly to the way that the comments work inside of Comeet. You can tag someone, either yourself or someone on your team, and send a reminder. You can decide who it will be visible to and set a time on the reminder to be set. It will be sent to you or your teammate email. So this is useful for a few different things. It's to remind yourself to follow up with a candidate you've been on hold. Maybe somebody's away for vacation for a couple of weeks, so you can set yourself a reminder to talk to them in 2 weeks' time. You can tell your team to revisit a candidate about a future position. Let's say I know they be great for something a reminder in the future. And it can also help you reconsider a candidate who you weren't sure about. Say, sleep on it a couple of weeks and then go back to it and decide whether you'd like to proceed in the process with them or not. This next one is a bigger feature. It's something that we worked on and planned for a long time. It's actually more of a service than a feature, and quite a few companies are already enjoying it. It's an add-on service, so it's not part of your account. It's something you can add on. Comeet sends a survey to candidates about their interviewing experience and displays the results in advance or insights. It's a really great way to get actionable information that will help you understand the way your candidates experience interviewing, how they discuss you with your friends, and how you can make improvements in your processes. If it's something that you're interested in, please get in touch with us in the chat and we'll be happy to set something up. As the slide says as well, in addition to being able to get immediate feedback directly from candidates, this is anonymous as well, so they'll feel comfortable sharing the information. Will also help you boost your positive Glassdoor reviews and measure your success with those great dashboards we have in Insights. I'm going to pass things back along to Beth to talk about step templates.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Orly. So the first topic we are going to talk about today, which I'm very excited to introduce to you all, it's called step templates. So I'm sure you're asking yourself, what are step templates? Up until now, when you're creating a workflow and setting up those steps, you were able to add free text to those steps and name them what you would want. While that is great and again gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom, what we saw with this practice is that a lot of the step names were being named differently in different positions. So for example, you might call one step CV screen manager in one position, and then in another position you might call the same exact step manager screening. So what we realized was that because of these different names for these different steps, and anything even like the difference of a letter would cause the reports to get a little bit skewed and muddle your data. So this was especially apparent in your activity and past candidate funnel reports. So if you have noticed that in the past, it is something that step templates is going to fix. So in order to solve this, we decided to enable the system owner or the admin to create predetermined step names. So we're going to close the list off for recruiters when they are deciding what to name a step. So the recruiters will choose from one of these names from a dropdown when creating and editing a workflow. So I do want to show you kind of what that looks like here if you haven't recognized this already. You'll see that if I click on CV Screen Recruiter, it's going to give me a drop down here that allows me to choose what name I want to apply to this specific step. And it's so on and so forth throughout the whole entire workflow. So you'll notice again, this is phone interview, but I can name it anything from this list. and I'm not going to be able to just type in free text here. So I do want to show you how that's set up. So I'm going to navigate to our quote unquote command center on the upper right hand corner of Comeet here. So I'm going to click on the photo icon or company name and go down to settings. Now on the left-hand side under settings, I'm going to go ahead and go over to step templates, which is under data. Now there's a few things that I want to point out about step templates and creating them within your account. So number one, it's going to ask you, do you want step templates to be required? Meaning that the recruiting team has to select from the list of step templates that you've created when creating steps in a workflow. Now we do recommend keeping it at required. The reason being, again, we want to make sure that your reports are totally accurate. Your data reflects exactly what your process looks like. And if you don't have it as required, people might still go in there and create free text steps, which again, will start to cause a little bit of confusion when it comes to, accurately reporting your information. So you can make it not required. It doesn't make you a bad recruiter or owner here. However, we do recommend keeping it at required. Alrighty, now scrolling down here, we do have the step templates listed here by recruiting stage. So we have a few that we'll just take a look at here to give you more context on how it's going to work. So we have sourcing with a step already added here called reach out. We have application screening, resume screens, which we have a few steps already created here for you, as well as screening, interviews, assessments, and then a few more as we scroll down here. We don't have to go through all of these, but it is something I encourage you to take a look at maybe after our call here. So let's first take a look at application screening. Again, for sourcing, you do have reach out. You're welcome to utilize it. But I would say more often than not, you are setting up workflows starting with the resume screen here. So we'll take a look at this one. So you'll see that we have two steps created. We have CV screen recruiter. That's going to be a resume screen from the recruiter. And we have CV screen manager here, which is going to be the manager reviewing that resume. Now, if you click on any of these different steps, you will have the ability to edit this. So I am going to go ahead and click through to show you what that looks like. So at the top here, we have our basic details. This means that if you change the name of, or the stage here, or you change the step name, that is going to be like a closed list then in the step templates when your recruiters are setting up the workflow. That means that they will not have the ability to edit these two different steps for the stage. We also have our default details down here. Now this is going to be used or utilized a little bit differently in that the step type being set to go, no go, or the participants being set to recruiter, those can be edited by your team when they are setting up your workflow. So basic details is static, default details does allow your recruiter or whomever is setting up the workflow to change that information. Now, as you are creating these different step templates, you're obviously welcome to use the ones that we've created, but if your verbiage is a little bit different, you absolutely have the opportunity here to change that. And when you do, so let's say you typically call a step name, recruiter resume screen, and you change that here, that change will affect all of your positions that are currently open. So it'll change, in this example, 31 open position workflows. So the update will reflect across the board here. Let's say when you're looking at a lot of these different step templates, they don't really make sense for you, which again, totally makes sense given you have your own unique workflows. You can archive them. So if you click on these three little dots here, or if you just click where I did too, just in the text field there, you do have the ability to archive these steps, and then they will not be able to be used when creating the different workflows in the step templates. So you can archive them, you can duplicate them, and you can edit them here as well. If at any point you do want to see your archived step templates, you can go ahead and click on archived here at the top. Right now we're looking at active. and it'll show you the step templates that have been archived. Now, if you want to reactivate one of these steps, so for example, screening interviews, you would go ahead and reactivate it, and then they'll be able to be used again. Now, one thing I do like to point out here and for you to keep in mind is that you will not have the ability to use duplicate step names in a workflow. So for example, if we're looking at phone interview here, you will not be able to name, let's say, the next step phone interview. Again, that's just going to be for reporting sake. We want to make sure that we're accurately tracking each different step as properly as possible. But one suggestion we have to kind of work around that is if this step is phone interview by the recruiter, just name it phone interview recruiter. This is phone interview HR, just call it phone interview HR. Again, that's going to make a world of difference when running your reports and sharing them with your team. You can accurately track how the candidates are going through these different workflows, how long it's taking them to go through these workflows. It's going to improve the look and capabilities of your apply to hire and time to hire and all of the really fun stuff that, most of us that are in this industry kind of geek out about. Alrighty, so I think that's everything that I wanted to cover here with step templates. Again, super excited about it. If you have questions, definitely let us know and we will walk you through that process. But I'm going to hand it over to Orly, who's going to talk to you a little bit about position fields and disposition reasons.
Thank you, Beth. So we're going to go to the description tab now and talk about position fields. Position fields are something that, first of all, we have default fields that we add for you. And in addition, you can also customize this. Like a lot of the other things in Comeet, we have a high level of customization. So first of all, with our default fields, you always see the position name, the public name, position ID, location, employment and department and seniority. Salary range, of course, is something that's only visible to recruiters. You don't have to use this field, but you can. In addition to all of these, you can also add your own fields. You can do this from the system settings, but we actually have this handy link right here, this customize button, like gray. If I click on it, it takes me into the system settings to the positions fields page. The first thing that I recommend doing, even if you don't add your own fields or don't need to customize things too much, is to take all of these and turn them into drop downs. Our system default is that they're free text fields, meaning just like what Beth said about step names, if one time you write the department one way and the other time you make a typo, in your reports, there'll be two different departments. So what you can do in order to make this a drop down is just click on it. Note at the top that some of these are default fields in Comeet. This means that they're public fields and you can't change their name. So department is one of these. Public means that it will be displayed or can be displayed on your website and on job boards. If you have a custom integration, you might still be able to hide some of these, but if you're not using a custom integration, it'll always show. So you can actually manage these. If I stand with my cursor over one of them, I can either erase it by clicking the X, I can click on it and edit it. I can actually see how many positions these are in use in as well, because you won't be able to delete one of these options if it has positions associated with it. You'll need to change the name or move those positions to one of the other options. So definitely recommend making this a drop down and doing this with all the others. Another option that you have is making these required to publish. This means that you won't be able to publish the position without entering some kind of value in that field. It can't be left empty. This is a great way to ensure that you really are adding all of the information that's important. Like with the departments, you won't be able to post your job on a lot of job boards without having a department there. So this will kind of ensure that you don't forget to add that information in. Now, in addition to being able to control these, you can also add your own, these are called position categories. All I have to do is click on add category, give it a name, decide if it's going to be for internal use or public, and whether I want it to be free text or drop down whenever possible. Again, the recommendation is to make it a drop down. Now, some examples of things that a customer sometimes use these for are things like priority or maybe a region or a sub-department. These are great for all of those. Click on cancel for now. You can also add position details here at the bottom, which is things like the descriptions, the requirements. For this company, we also added benefits as an internal use field, so you can play around with these as well. Now, what can I do with these position fields once I've added them? First of all, you can use them to filter your reports, which is really important. You can filter the reports inside of Comeet as well as the ones in Insights using these fields. Another great thing you can do with them is you can actually add them as an attribute to templates. So if it's something that you want to be adding to templates a lot, you can add it as a position field here. Make it for internal use if you don't want it published and still be able to use it in your templates. If you have a custom website integration, you can pull these into your integration. These are a great and very versatile tool. Now, one of the things that we're asked a lot by customers is, how do I find the positions where I haven't entered a value into one of these fields? So another thing that you can do with these custom fields is actually, first of all, you can group your positions by them here on the left-hand side of the screen. Say sub-department is a custom field added, I can group by the sub-department. Anything that shows under other means that it doesn't have a value entered. So if I want to see how many, or if I have any positions, let's say, that don't have a location, I can group by locations. And here at the bottom, I have these 3 positions that don't have location entered. The next thing that we're going to discuss today is disposition reasons. It's one of the things that is super, super important for reporting reasons. And it's also managed in the system settings. In our summary, we're going to be sending over a recommended list of disposition reasons beyond the default that Comeet gives you. So here in the system settings, under data, we're going to talk about disposition reasons. First of all, I very much recommend selecting a disposition reason required. If you're a customer that's been working with Comeet a while, our default used to be optional, which means that your managers or people on your team might be rejecting candidates without selecting a reason. It's great information to have your report, so there's no reason not to make it required. It's just a click of a button and it will give you so much that you can work with in the reports. In terms of the rejection reasons, like I said, we'll be sending over a longer list, but even if you don't open that email, you don't look at that list, my very warm recommendation for you is to remove the one called doesn't meet minimum qualifications and to separate it into more specific reasons. The reason for this is that we see with a lot of customers that they reject maybe 90% of their candidates because they don't meet minimum qualifications. It's a very general reason. And then when they want to take a look at the reports and kind of understand some more about why they're rejecting candidates, they can't really find that out. So what are disposition reasons good for? Why does it matter to manage them? The reason is that they can give you a lot of insights in your reports about various stages of your hiring process. For example, you can take a look at the offer step, take a look at the withdrawal reasons and understand why candidates aren't accepting the offers that you're sending to them. Maybe your salary isn't competitive enough. Maybe you're kind of not catching the candidates in time. They've already received offers from other companies earlier. Another thing you can do is, let's say, take a look at your on-site interview stages. If you see that candidates are being rejected because they don't have enough qualifications or enough experience, it's probably something you could have found out before having the candidate come into the office and spending time interviewing them. And so I definitely recommend having more rejection reasons than we give you by default and having more specific ones. And make sure when you're adding these reasons and managing them, that you're choosing reasons that will give you insights when you take a look at those reports. That's it about that. I'm going to pass you back over to Beth to kind of summarize what we talked about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Orly. I don't know if you could hear it in Orly's voice about disposition reasons. It's, one of our favorite features, and that it gives you so much knowledge to make tweaks to certain, aspects of your positions, or allows you to have conversations with your recruiters based on what you're seeing in these reports. So definitely take advantage of those. We love them. So overall today, we discussed a new feature called step templates. Again, this allows you to create a closed list of step names, and it gives you we also talked about the various options you have to add custom fields to position details. Again, the reason behind these tools is to really allow you to customize to fit your unique needs within your organization, but it's also going to allow you to organize your data, enable you to filter it according to your needs. So flexibility with the ability to have really great data and reports. So now that we have talked about all of this fun stuff, how to correctly manage your data, in our next webinar, we're actually going to dive into the different reports and talk about each one of them and the insights that you can really get from all of the different reports that we have for you. So with that being said, we can open y'all up to questions. I'll start my video again so we can see each other here. So if you have questions, let us know. You can drop them in the chat at the bottom or the Q&A here. Stacy, noted, we have your comment here about the candidate voice. We'll definitely get you some information on that feature. Do we have any other questions or comments here?
You see that we received one, which is, can the names of stages in step templates be changed? So the answer to this is yes. Just like Beth showed you, keep in mind that when you change the name of the steps in the step templates, it will affect all of the positions that you have in Comeet with that step name. Not only the open ones, by the way, also if you have closed positions that you end up reopening, or if you kind of end up duplicating an old position as a template and it had one of those steps in it, the step names will be changed. It's also something good to keep in mind in general. When you're determining the step names you want to have in your Comeet, it only will affect things moving forward. We're not making changes going back. So if you're reopening an old position or duplicating a position as a template, you might have some steps in there that you don't want to be using anymore. So just keep an eye out while we're in this kind of time period where we're moving from the old way of working to the new, to make sure that you're using the steps that you want to use also in those older positions. Let's see if we have any other questions.
I see one here. I organized my step templates, but when I look at the activity report, I see the old step names. Why? Great question. So ultimately, moving forward, what we really want to do is make sure all of these reports and data is better than what we've had in the past when it comes to aligning all of that different data. With that being said, we don't want to touch any historical data. If we were to change it now, it would just change or customize things that happened in the past. And we think it's really important to keep all of that information, as is in its natural state, without affecting, your future report. So I understand there's confusion around, if we're fixing all this, why don't we fix what we had in the past? But again, we don't want to change anything that happened in the past, because it is really important to keep that historical data, as is.
Great, and I see that we have one more question. I'm used to using duplicate step names. What should I do now that I can't do that anymore? That's also a great question. It's something that we've had come up with a few customers, because it's always difficult when you need to make changes at first, kind of get used to a new way of working. We do think it's the best way to work in terms of your reporting. So if you really want steps to have the same name, let's say you want to have you reach out to a candidate a few times when you're sourcing them before you start the workflow, you can add a reach out 1, reach out 2, reach out 3. You'll still have an indication of what order you did things in. It will help you kind of understand the funnel when you're looking at the activity report or the funnel report. And will still enable you to have kind of the consistency in the step naming. So that's what we recommend doing.
Awesome.
Any other questions? We'd love to hear them or see them.
And always keep in mind that we're here at all times to help you. If you have never used this chat box in the bottom right-hand corner of your Comeet here, we definitely encourage you to do so. To reiterate what I said earlier or at the beginning of the call, we're here to make sure you are happy with Comeet. Our partnership is successful. We love working with you all. So don't ever hesitate, to reach out with questions at any point. We're happy to be here for you.
Definitely.
Alrighty, so it looks like that's the end of the questions today. I do want to thank you again so much for joining us today. Please continue to join our webinar series. We love doing it. It's super exciting for us. Let us know if you have questions. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.